Hello folks, Starcraft here, bringing you a ZvZ Pro replay. We've got Scarlett versus Revival. Somewhat dated, I think this game was from a few weeks back, but you gotta go where the content is. I don't think I've casted any games with Revival. I'm excited to see what his ZvZ style is going up against Scarlett. The ZvZ out of Scarlett, a little bit different. That's one of the matchups I haven't seen a lot of her out of. It's been a lot of her being like the Terran Slayer and the Protoss killer, but in the ZvZ style here, we'll see what she can bring up against a very, very strong Korean Zerg player. It's a 4-player map. Both players are scouting in the correct direction. I think there's this natural tendency to kind of scout vertically rather than horizontally in games. Not exactly sure. Both of them, we'll see if they get mirror builds here because it's a 4-player map. Part of me is expecting them to go for a hatch first, unless they intended to go for some sort of a more aggressive play right out of the gates. We'll see if either of them have that inclination. We'll see what their APM is actually while it's not much happening right now. So, Scarlett is actually doing a lot more than Revival. And that's, at this point, it's a lot of spamming, obviously. But I'm interested to see if that maintains it here as the game gets going on, if we can see that Revival kind of picks that back up. APM for me is a weird thing. Like, I know it's actually very important. Both players do know where they are now. It's kind of a weird thing to think about whether or not it's super, super critical. I do think that it is really important. I didn't really start noticing how important it was until I started playing against people that I knew they were better than me or less good than me and watched them play in person. And you watch over the shoulder and you just like make more stuff, get another supply depot, get your army moving, do more stuff. And that multitasking is also an ability to be able to do more actions in a minute. So I think that there is a lot to be said for having a really, really strong APM. Interesting history of it as well when people go back and look at when the APM kind of a big deal. Gas before pool on one side. I don't think we've got any gas from Scarlett at all. We'll see if she wants to go for maybe a delayed gas into a direct roach style. You can get a better close off here. No, there's the gas. As I say, you can kind of Hyun build, go straight for roaches a bit better on a map like this. The choke's a little bit smaller. Now the Overlord's probably going to come in here, checks the timing of the pool, probably clicked on the extractor, see how much gas has been taken. We'll see that the speed will obviously be done a lot sooner for her opponent. This guy's going to rock and roll, knows the timing of the pool, he's got plenty of time to vamoose out of there. One queen on the way, second queen started. We should be seeing the nearly exact same thing here, I would assume. There we go. Couple seconds delay there out of a Revival, but it won't be too big of a deal, I don't think. Units wise, essentially the same economy. One extra worker for Scarlett, probably because her gas was delayed slightly to get a couple extra minerals out. So identical builds. Both players know exactly what the other player is doing essentially at this point. Speed, not too big of a difference on the speed, only about 8 or 9 seconds difference there. So that works out well. We're still having gas being taken fully by both players, actually. It's kind of surprising. So I'm expecting a Baneling nest to go down here pretty quick for both of them. Both of the queens running out to the front just to be able to see if there's anything they can put a hurt on. Sometimes you can catch an Overlord that's just a little lazy, poke it in the butt. A couple of Lings are going to come in. Thought they might go for a scout into there. That does not look like the case. 2 Lings popping out as well from Revival. Kind of that standard scouting too. Baneling nest here at the front. And a lot of the times I used to think, well, why would you put the Baneling nest right at the front? Doesn't that kind of give away what you're doing? Yes, but it's pretty obvious what you're doing. And what this helps you do is bury your queen right in between, so the surface area on Ling run-bys is a lot less. Your queens last a lot longer when you can fit them into that little narrow space. And that's something for people to take note of. Big pile of Lings popping out now for Revival, and a Spinecrawler at home. So, nope, there's a Spinecrawler here as well. It looks like Scarlett knows what's up. She could actually afford to get down a couple of Evo chambers here and block this off better. She does have Banelings morphing well in advance of her opponent. Let's see if that matters for much here. Oh no! A little bit of a miscontrol there out of Scarlett. Whoa! Pretty tight Ling control. This is actually tossing around Scarlett a bit. These Banelings will finish. Pretty good hit there. Back up at the top. Her drones aren't mining. This is the problem sometimes of just putting on the pressure, is that you can get your opponents to make mistakes. A lot of missed mining time there out of those drones. Units-wise, there's still a lead for Scarlett and overall workers here. Supply's about the same. There's more army out right now for her opponent. A couple of banelings at home. Lair's finished on this side. Lair's not quite on this side. Spire's already started. Gases are all going down. Now this is an important point of whether or not Revival is going to push for a big win right now, or he's going to delay and try to get into a Muta battle. From the looks of it, it's going to be more of a Muta battle. Yep, there's the Spire. But this is the really interesting timing moment, where if you just barrel down into your opponent, sometimes you can get the win. But if you don't and they hold it off, they'll Mutas come out, clean it up, and you're just miles behind. A lot of units that aren't going to do much for Revival right now. He will be going for a third base at about the same time. Overlord's in good position here to see exactly what's going on. Don't know if she will know that that base is going up or not. Big pile of banelings. Nice picking off A-Ling there. Don't know if he's going to be able to get too much damage in. He'll probably fall back. Spire is about to pop here. We just got another 20 seconds. Gas bank right now is pretty high for both players, so they should be able to put out a big pile of mutas. Overlord's on the way. There should be time for her to be able to get that flock out. And that's usually the big trick that a lot of people run into, is just like, yay, I've got a ton of gas, I'm ready for mutas, and they have no supply right now. So we see a delay in the mutas that you can actually make because those overlords are just popping now. Only about 5 in production total right now. Spire's about to pop on this side. There's been no spore crawlers set up from either player. 7 and 7, and both getting the carapace started at about the same time. The carapace is what you want first. This queen might actually go down here. Losing that queen's pretty unfortunate. Even if he does end up losing a bunch of the zerglings here, it is actually more important to kill off that queen, I would argue. Gonna start hitting some overlords now. A lot of these guys that can run are running. So if we look at the units now, let's look at the flock. Both have the exact same flock of mutas. Both have their other bases and both have their gases taken. So we're into the full-on dance mode right now. Picking off some overlords. This guy's a little far ahead. You don't really want to lose that. Good control. We'll save it. Zerglings are moving around the other side to try to get some sort of angle. Pull the Mutaflock out of position, and in come the Lings. This is really, really smart here. I don't know if she'll be able to get the hatch or not with her timing. This is pretty good work out of Scarlett here. Is pulling her opponent in 2 different directions. Is killing off a lot of workers right now. Probably could have got off another shot or 2. That worked out very well. Units-wise, she's got a 14 Harvester lead. And the Mutaflocks are about the same right now. But the onus is kind of on Revival to get a bit of damage done at this point. The flocks are about even, so it's about control. There's a Spore Crawler in place. He does not want to fight around that Spore. Oh, terrible spot there. Loses 2 mutas pretty easily. Now his flock is less. Good transfuse on one of the mutas will actually keep her flock up by quite a few. Queen has been killed here, but that's kind of up and running again. If we actually look at the income tab, pretty even on the gas, but the minerals, there's a huge lead for Scarlett right now on the minerals. Another pile of Lings on this side. Might go for another run by. There is a spine here, so it's difficult to say if they'll get much done. +1 attack on the way. More mutas. Spore Crawler going down on this side as well. It's cheap. 3 shots mutas. I do like getting down 1 or 2 spores. That way you can always rally back to a place of strength. That minimal income we see from Scarlett, it's doing an amazing job of giving her just a few extra resources to go on the attack. Unfortunately, her second prong is not quite in position. The Spore Crawler here will probably deter her from going too far into this. Yeah, good control from her to keep back from there. Could maybe poke in the front, grab an Overlord or 2. That would help out a little bit. 1 Changeling should be able to tell her what's going on. Now, this is a smart move from her. There's no sport crawlers on this side. So if she can get some damage in, the Lings can run in the other side. There's no Banelings at home right now. We'll split up. Run some into the main. Queen's in a pretty good spot right now. Lots of Lings fighting. Let's look at the Mutaflox now. There's still more for Scarlett. She could turn around and fight this. Oh, a little bit of bad control the auto revival. There we go. There's the GG. Smart moves out of Scarlett there. For a point there, I thought she was going to fall behind. Just didn't have the great Ling and Baneling control earlier on. But a couple of really smart moves from that just allowed her to take that game fairly convincingly. Sego StarCraft, this is a best of 3. We're going on to game 2 here in just a moment.